Today's daf is daf Chaf Vav, and we're up to Viharova, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down from the top. So Rova is a bachur, is someone who's not married, and Nasa Akara Uzkein. So he married a woman who's not capable of having children. V'yein lo isha ubanim meikara. So at the time that he gave her kinui to his wife, he did not fulfill the mitzvah of Piri Verivya, and therefore, according to the Tanakama, he's not married to a woman who's re'uyalo. He's got to divorce her and marry someone else. We don't believe that he's going to marry someone else without divorcing her. Therefore, lo shosa v'lo notels ksuba, this marriage is not a legal marriage. But Rabbi Lezer Omer, no, yachalu lisa acheres v'lifros v'lirbos hemena, and this we saw in the daf of yesterday, that he, according to Rabbi Lezer, we rely on him that he'll fulfill his mitzvah and marry another woman, and therefore this marriage to an Akar's Kena is a legitimate marriage, and therefore after Kini and Stira, she drinks from the Mei Amarar. Aval Amakani la Rusoso u'shomeres Yavam Shalo. If there was a kinui to the wife of his late brother who died without children, or to his arusa, umisheknasa nistera, so there was a kinui took place while she was an arusa or shomeres yavam, but the stira took place after chuppah or after bia. In such a case, we go back to the regular Sotah. So the fact that the kinui took place at a moment which would not generate hashkah, that doesn't bother us. The ikar that's kovea is the moment of stira. So if the moment of stira was after knisa and she's no longer an arusa, or after bia and she's no longer a shomeres yivama, therefore she will drink even though the kinui took place before the knisa l'chuppah. And Lono tells Ksubasa, and now after Kini and Stira, she's Asura Olav, so she violated the Kini with Stira, and therefore she forfeits her rights to Ksuba. Muberes umenikas atzmo, so too at a person who's married to a woman and she's pregnant or she's nursing, and he gave her Kinui, she violated the kinui with stira, o shosa, o lo notels ksubasa. So we're not going to wait until she gives birth to put her to death, meaning if the bedika of the hashkas sota will find her guilty, she'll die, and she'll die with the child that's in her body, or perhaps the child that's already born might perish because he needs yanika. And irrelevant to that factor, we're going to be mashka her. And of course, if let's say she doesn't want to drink from the Meimorarim, then he'll divorce her and she doesn't get a ksuba. Rovesh and Nasa Akaruz Keno Vieshlo Ishobanim. Now we have a different case, and that's a case of a bachur who marries a woman who's not capable of having children, but he already had children. So he already fulfilled the mitzvah of Piri Verivya. Then the laws of Kini V'stira apply as they generally do, because the ishus is beheter gomer, and therefore shoso tells ksuba, meaning if she refuses to drink from the meimorarim, then she forfeits her ksuba. Eishes mamzer lemamzer. Now this seems like a very obvious case. Mamzer is allowed to marry a mamzeres, and that's exactly what happened. And then he gave her kini and stira. So obviously, in this case, there's hashkas meimorarim. So we don't know exactly what the chiddush is, but we'll see later on. The Gemara thinks that maybe we don't want to encourage her to drink for the meimorarim and then become pregnant, because we're going to have more mamzerim in the world. Eishes nasin l'nasin, Eishes ger. However, a ger is allowed to marry just 1 second. Isha's ger, Isha shall ger. So she's married to a ger, or an Evid Meshuchar who has the same din as a ger, but islandess. Okay, we're gonna have a whole discussion here about islandess. But in all these cases, there's kini and stira and hashkas sota. Oshoso lonotelos ksuba. And the reason for this is because the ishus is beheter. It's a mamzir to a mamzer, it's a nosin to an asina, or a woman who's married to a ger. So the Gemara asks, wait a minute, what about islandess? Now, in order to appreciate the Gemara's kasha, we have to remind ourselves, I should have done this at the beginning of this year, of the statement of Rav Nachman, back on Daf Chafayim and Beis, that even though the shita of Rabbi Eliezer is that in a case of Akara or Zkena, there is Hashkas Sota, according to Rabbi Eliezer, because he could always marry another woman and be Mekayim Peri Verivya. But Rav Nachman says that in the case of islandess, there's no Hashkas Sota, even according to Rabbi Eliezer, because of the special pasuk V'niksa V'nizra Zara Shedarka Lazriya Yotza Zu Shein Darka Lazriya. Here, we just learned that in the case of an islandess, there is kini and stir and hashka. What is Rav Nachman going to do with this brisa? Is tiyuv to the Rav Nachman. Omer l'cha Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman comes to resolve this question. Hanoihi, that which I said that in the case of an islandess, even Rabbi Elazar agrees that there's no hashkas sota because of the pasuk v'nizra. That's one opinion in Tanoim. And even though you're quoting the Abraisa that reflects the other opinion, it's machlokas Tanoim. The Sanya, Rab Shimon Elazar Omer, islandess lo shosa v'lo notelos ksuba. So this would reflect the shita of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman is predicated on Rab Shimon ben Elazar. Shenemar v'niksa v'nizra zera misha darkal azriya yotza islandess zo she'ein darkal azriya. So she doesn't have the capacity. I don't know why the Gemara used the word darka. I would have said in a re'uya lazriya. Anyway, so she's not capable of having children, and therefore she's not included in the parsha of Sotah. Now, why didn't Reb Shimon ben Elazar add Akara and Skena, that they're also excluded from Hashkas Sotah, which is the Shitas Chachamim? But the answer is that Reb Shimon ben Elazar agrees with Reb Elazar that in the cases of Akar and Skeda, we always say he can marry someone else. So therefore, this brisa of Reb Shimon ben Elazar is reflecting the Shita of Elazar that Skena and that Skena and Akara, is Einon Shosos. So that's the Shita of Elazar. I'm sorry. That since he didn't mention Skena and Akara, it means that Skena and Akara are Shosos, which is the Shita of Elazar. And nevertheless, island is Einon Shosa. And why is that so? Because in the cases of Skena and islandess, there's no Isser in the heirs in the Nesuin because he could always marry another woman. But in the case of islandess, she's not even Re'uya Leleid, and therefore she's excluded from the Pasuk V'nizra. So the Gemara asks for Rabbanon, Hi, V'niksa V'nizra Zora Mai Avile. According to the Rabbanon who hold that an islandess is Shosa, and that we saw in the brisa that we just quoted now to raise an objection to Rav Nachman. It says that island is Shosa. The Chachamim need V'niksa to the following halacha. which is machlokes in the Brisa. V'niksa v'nizra zara, Rabbi Akiva Shita shem hoisa akara nifkedes, that a woman who is physically incapable of having children will miraculously have children if she drinks from the Masechet. And we'll see soon that that's going to make it very attractive for women who are barren to want to go into stira after kinui and have a drinking of mei merorim. But in any event, and nifkedes, she will have children. And this we learn from the pasuk v'nizra. Amar lo Rabbi Shmuel and Cain, Isasru kol hakaros ipaktu. A woman who is incapable of having children will therefore, in an artificial way, set up and engineer a hashka, so that through that hashka she'll miraculously have children. Vizo, but if let's say you have a barren woman who's an isha kshera or a tsnua, she doesn't want to go into a private place with another man. Hovlo nisra hifsida. It's sort of like you're not being democratic and fair. You're allowing a woman who's not so tsanua to find a way out of her akarus, of being barren and having children, but not a woman who is a kshera netznuah. But rather, says Rabbi Shmuel, Im kein matam alom niksa v'niz zara shem hoisi yoledes b'tzar yoledes b'reva hoisi yoledes nekevos yoledes charim hoisi yoledes ktsarim yoledes aruchim hoisi yoledes shchorim yoledes levanim. So this will be a miraculous improvement of the process of procreation, of getting pregnant, and I should say giving birth, and the nature and the quality, so to speak, of the child that she gives birth to. But it cannot, according to Rabbi Shmuel, make a yoledes out of an akara. Eishes man l'mam zepshita mao desema afushi psum lo leifush komashmal. But have meaning that we don't want to increase the amount of mamzerim by having her drink from the mei merorim, and we'd rather leave the situation as is, whereas through the stira she's asur al baila. Komashmal, no, she drinks in any. Eishes ger v'eved meshucher v'ailenis. So the Gemara asks about Eishes ger. Pshita. Okay, so she's married to a ger. Why would we have a havamina that ishus would not lend itself to Ashkas Sotah? Mauda Tema, we would have thought that the parsha of Sotah does not include gerim, because it says Daber al Bnei Yisrael. So we would have interpreted that Bnei Yisrael excludes v'lo gerim. Kamash Malon, the Bryce wants to tell me that even in a case of a woman who's married to a ger, she still will drink for the mei merorim ve'emachinami. So once you have the pasuk Bnei Yisrael, maybe we should exclude gerim. V'amarta ribuyehu. The pasuk says daber el Bnei Yisrael v'amarta, and the word v'amarta is superfluous, and therefore we use it as a ribuy to be marbe gerim, that a woman who's married to a ger, she will drink from the mei merorim. Eishes Kohen shows up Pshita. Why would I have a havamina that a woman who's married to a Kohen is outside of the parasha of Sotah? Mauda Tema, when the Torah introduces the parasha of Sotah, it says Vehi lo nisfasa, which means that the Torah is telling us that a woman who has a relationship with another man while she's married to this man is asur l'bayla because lo nitfasa. In other words, she was an approving partner. Nitfasa, implying that if she was raped, muteris l'bayla. And all that applies only to a case of an Eishes Yisrael. But an Eishes Kohen is asur al bayla, even in a case nebuchadnezzar of ones. Hoil v'nitfas asura, emelod tishta. So therefore, if that exclusion of he lo nitfasa does not apply to a Kohen, because in the case of a woman married to a Kohen, even if she was nitfasa, she's asura, is therefore even the pasuk that goes beyond and discusses hashkas sotah doesn't include an Ashes Kohen. Kamash Malan, the Mishnah teaches me that even an Ashes Kohen drinks from the Maimarorim. Now, at this point, the Gemara doesn't raise the objection that it raised earlier of the Ema Hachinami. In other words, maybe we should exclude Ashes Kohen. And he answers here in the name of Tosfos that the Tana had a Kabbalah Mirabosov, the Kach Nitan Misinai, that Vehilo Nitfasa is not coming to be Doresh, that an Ashes Kohen is excluded from Hashka, but rather to teach us that an Ashes Kohen is Asura al Baila even Ba'onis. But in terms of Bnei Yisrael v'lo Gerim, that's a full-fledged drasha. Gemara says Muteres lebaila. If an Ashes Kohen drinks and survives the Hashka, she's allowed to go back to her husband. Pshita, why do you have to tell me that? Is there another Havamina that if the B'dika turns out with negative results that she would be Asur al Baila? Amarav Huna, the Mishnah is talking about a case of misnavna. In other words, her physical health started deteriorating immediately after she drank. And perhaps I would have thought that maybe that indicates that she was mizana and she was guilty, and therefore the Mishnah has to teach me that she's muteris l'bayla. So the Gemara immediately raises the following objection: misnavna but kua b'maya. If, as a result of drinking, her physical health started deteriorating, then that means that she's a zona, that she was guilty as accused of having an adulterous relationship. She may have a zchus tolala, and that's why she didn't die immediately. But the fact that her health is really down, that indicates that the results of the test of drinking were positive, and therefore she's vade zinsa. So why is she muteres l'bayla? And now the Gemara says that there are two types of misnavna. There's misnavna birosha, and there's this and derech, which is called derech evarim. Misnavna derech evarim. So it means that this is not the real misnavna that proves that she had znus, which would be b'me'el u'bi'archel. The Torah speaks about her thighs exploding and her stomach exploding, but here her head and her ivarim are very, very heavy. She's having trouble moving. So in this case, we're not going to assume that she, as a result of the test, we've proven and established that she's zinsa. We don't know that she's vade zinsa. And therefore, we don't have a bedikas mayim that proves that she had znus in the way the Torah describes it. And here we have a very important note. Just 1 second. Okay, we have a Mishnah Lamelech. Okay, let's just wait another minute for the Mishnah Lamelech. So the Mishnah needs to teach me that she's muteris l'kohen, even though the bedika doesn't prove that she had znus. Why was there a havamina that she be asur l'kohen? Ma'od detema ha'zanuye zani v'adol obad k'maya ki orche mishum deba'ones zanoi l'gabi kohen asira. The havamina was that in this strange kind of results of the bedika, it's not the normal case of znus, where, as the Torah describes it, her thighs and her stomach would explode. but it is nevertheless indicative of a different kind of znus, a znus ba'ones, that she was raped, and she therefore should be asur l'kohen. So Kamash Balon, the Mishnah is saying that no, the Mayim did not have the power of being bodek znus ba'ones. The Mayim could only prove when her stomach and thigh explodes that she had a znus b'rotzon. So therefore, the fact that she had nisnavna b'derech evarim, that doesn't prove that she had znus b'ones, and therefore she's muteres leishis kohen. And the suffix is not enough to generate an isur l'kohen. And here's where the Mishnah Melech adds the following: Ein hochacha brura shelo zinsa ba'ones. We really are confused, and we're not certain, because it's very possible that this deterioration of her body, where her head and her body are so heavy, is an indication that maybe she did have some sort of a znus, not the full-fledged znus, but maybe the znus b'ones. And if that be the case, we have to come to a conclusion, says the Mishnah Melech, that ein eishes kohen eseres misafek ones, that an eishes kohen has a cheskas kashrus and a cheskas heter of baila, and even if in this kind of bedika where she has heaviness, and that's nifznavna, so we might assume or suspect that she had a bia be'ones, and therefore she'd be asur al baila kohen. No, we're going to say that she has a heter lebaila kohen until we know for sure that she had an ones. Eishes soris shosa. Now Rashi explains that a soris here is a sris chama. That means that he was born as a soris, and he was never in his life a bar holoda. He could never have children. Then we have something called a sris adam, who was born healthy, and he became a soris later through a maisa adam. And he's also lovo bakol, and he comes under the category of lo yovo ptsuadaku kushuvka b'kal Hashem, and therefore his wife would not drink from the mei marorim because he's not allowed to be married to her. So Rashi therefore interprets that we're talking about a sris chama, so he's not included on the ptsuadaka, and therefore the ishus is legitimate. So the Gemara says pshita. Since the marriage is legitimate, then it would seem certain and obvious that she drinks from the Meimara. Ma'oditem, I might have thought in the parsha of Sotah, it says, Vayitein ish bach eschavta mibaladei ishech. So it means that the zera went into a man other than a husband. That's what it says in the pasuk. V'hai, but in the case of a saris who doesn't have zera, la bar hachihu, he's eno roy lazria. So maybe biladei sheikh is excluding someone who's eno roy lazria. Kamash malan. No, the pasuk doesn't intend to teach me that the balas be roy lazria, but rather to teach me that we need kodma shchivas baal shchivas boel. And therefore, even in the case of an Eishes Saris, he had a beer with her before the boel, and therefore she drinks from the Mei Marora. And we're going to come back to this sugya a little bit later. The Mishnah says, Al Yidei Kol Harayos Mekanim Pshita. Now, I'm not sure I understand the Gemara's Pshita. We always said that Hashkas Sotah is in a case where there's a legitimate marriage, and maybe even the kinui has to be vis-a-vis a person to whom she could have a legitimate marriage. But the Gemara thinks that there's no such havamina. And now the Keren Orah asks a different question. Why does the Gemara say Pshita? After all, the entire parsha of Sotah is based on stira, and stira is an Isur Yichud. In the case of one of her close relatives, there's no Isur Yichud. Like, for example, a brother is allowed to be alone with his sister. And the Keren Orah answers that the Gemara understood it was Pshita. There's no Chiddush here at all, because it's not the violation of the Isur Yichud through stira that generates the parsha of Sotah and Hashkas Sotah, but rather it's the Kpedas HaBaal. And if the Baal was makbid on stira with her brother, then that's a valid kinui, and that's Pshita that she has to drink if she violated that. And this is all based on the assumption that kinui is creating a brand new Isur. Kinui is not just reiterating the Isur Yichud by saying Al Tisasri, but rather it's generating an Isur Bifnei Atzmo. And that's going to happen in the case of Achia, that if it's her brother, there's no Isur Yichud, but there's an Isur Kinu. The Kinu itself generates a brand new Isur.